8 Signs of a Stupid Person, The Wisdom of Recognizing Foolishness. Marcus Aurelius Stoicism. The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our actions and choices shape who we are at our core. But what happens when our thoughts and actions stray from reason, wisdom, and virtue? Foolishness, as Marcus teaches, is not a lack of intelligence. It's a failure to live in alignment with what is good and rational. It appears in arrogance, impulsiveness, and the inability to reflect on one's actions. And here's the harsh truth. Foolishness doesn't just harm the foolish. It ripples out, impacting everyone around them. On today's episode of Stoic. In your life, we'll uncover 8 clear signs of a foolish person, drawn from the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and Stoic philosophy. These signs aren't just about pointing out the flaws of others. They're a mirror for our own behavior, showing us where we might be falling short and how we can rise above. If you've ever wondered how to avoid the traps of foolishness and embrace the path of wisdom, this video is for you. Together, let's discover how to identify these traits, overcome them, and cultivate a life guided by reason, virtue, and clarity. Lesson 1. Lack of self-awareness. It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. These words from Epictetus reveal the profound power of self-awareness, the cornerstone of wisdom and the foundation of a meaningful life. But what happens when self-awareness is missing? Without it, we risk living a life on autopilot, oblivious to our flaws, disconnected from growth, and blind to the consequences of our actions. Now we'll dive deep into the first most telling signs of foolishness: a lack of self-awareness. Guided by the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius and Stoic philosophy, we'll explore why this trait is so dangerous and how to overcome it to lead a life of clarity and purpose. A lack of self-awareness is a hallmark of foolishness because it prevents us from seeing ourselves as we truly are. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake in any thought or action, I will gladly change, for it is the truth I seek, and the truth never harmed anyone." This quote encapsulates the essence of self-awareness, the willingness to look inward, acknowledge our flaws, and embrace truth over ego. A foolish person, however, lacks this humility. They drift through life without pausing to question their choices, their habits, or their impact on others. They are quick to blame external circumstances for their problems but resist the uncomfortable work of introspection. For them, the idea of being wrong is a threat rather than an opportunity for growth, leading to stagnation and a repeated cycle of poor decisions. In the modern world, where distractions abound, the danger of losing self-awareness is even greater. Social media, endless entertainment, and the pressure to conform often pull us away from the quiet moments needed to reflect on who we are and where we're headed. A man lacking self-awareness might blame his failed relationships on the shortcomings of his partners, never considering how his behavior or mindset contributed. At work, he might view his lack of success as a result of bad luck or difficult colleagues, rather than examining his own skills, attitude, or approach. Without self-awareness, he remains stuck, unable to identify the changes necessary for progress. The Stoics teach us that self-awareness is not a luxury, but a responsibility. To cultivate it, Marcus Aurelius advises, "Enter within yourself. The outer world is in turmoil, but the inner world can bring you peace." This practice of looking inward allows us to evaluate whether our actions align with our values and whether our thoughts are grounded in truth. It's a habit that requires discipline, as it involves facing uncomfortable truths about our behavior, motives, and limitations. However, it is through this process that we gain clarity and open the door to meaningful change. In today's context, building self-awareness means taking deliberate steps to step away from the noise and distractions that cloud our judgment. It could mean journaling at the end of the day to reflect on your actions and emotions, seeking feedback from trusted friends or mentors who can offer a different perspective, or simply dedicating a few minutes daily to sit in silence and ask, "How have I lived today? What could I have done better?" Self-awareness also involves the humility to accept constructive criticism and view it not as an attack, but as a gift that helps us grow. In the words of Socrates, "The unexamined life is not worth living." A person who cultivates self-awareness becomes a better friend, partner, and leader because they are in tune with their strengths and weaknesses. They recognize when their emotions are clouding their judgment, allowing them to pause and choose their response rather than reacting impulsively. This ability to observe oneself fosters a sense of balance and control that not only enhances personal well-being, but also positively impacts those around them. In contrast, a lack of self-awareness leads to misunderstanding, miscommunication, and a life that feels unfulfilled because it is disconnected from reality. To overcome a lack of self-awareness, embrace Marcus Aurelius's timeless advice. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. By directing your attention inward, you reclaim the ability to shape your character and your destiny. Self-awareness is not about dwelling on flaws, but about recognizing them as opportunities for growth. When you face a challenge or experience a failure, instead of looking outward for someone or something to blame, ask yourself, what is within my control? What can I learn from this? Over time, this habit of introspection will sharpen your ability to navigate life with wisdom, resilience, and a deeper sense of purpose. The lesson here is clear. Self-awareness is the foundation of wisdom and the antidote to foolishness. Without it, we are like ships adrift at sea, moved aimlessly by external forces. But with it, we become the captains of our lives, steering toward a destination guided by reason, virtue, and clarity. As you go about your day, make time to reflect on your actions, question your assumptions, and align your behavior with the values you hold dear. In doing so, you not only guard against foolishness, but also set yourself on the path to true wisdom, as taught by the great Stoics. Lesson 2. Avoidance of reason and logic. Man is disturbed not by things but by the views he takes of them. These wise words from Epictetus remind us of the critical role reason and logic play in shaping our lives. Yet, one of the most evident signs of foolishness is the avoidance of reason, the refusal to engage in rational thinking when making decisions or solving problems. A person who avoids reason often allows emotions, impulses, or unexamined beliefs to dictate their actions, which leads to mistakes, regrets, and unnecessary conflict. This avoidance doesn't just affect the individual, it ripples outward, impacting relationships, careers, and the ability to lead a fulfilling life. But why do some people turn away from reason, and how can we prevent this trap in ourselves? Consider this. Have you ever found yourself in a heated argument where the facts clearly favored one side, but the other person stubbornly stuck to their view, ignoring all evidence? Perhaps it was a colleague who resisted a more efficient way of doing things, insisting that this is the way we've always done it. Or maybe it was a friend who made impulsive financial decisions despite logical advice to save for the future. These are modern examples of what Marcus Aurelius warned against. When he emphasized living in harmony with reason, he wrote in Meditations, "Do not be carried away by the impression of the moment. Act always with reason and deliberation." This avoidance of reason reflects a deep discomfort with confronting reality, as reason often requires humility to admit that we are wrong or to change deeply ingrained habits. In today's world, where misinformation spreads faster than ever, the avoidance of reason has become even more dangerous. Social media, echo chambers, and emotional appeals often encourage people to double down on their beliefs, even when logic and evidence suggest otherwise. For instance, think about how many people make life-altering decisions based on fear or fleeting emotions. Whether it's quitting a job in anger, ending a meaningful relationship without reflection, or rushing into risky investments. These decisions are often made in the heat of the moment, without stepping back to weigh the facts. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that reason is our greatest ally in such moments, urging us to pause, reflect, and ask ourselves, is this aligned with what is rational and virtuous? Without this check, foolishness takes root and leads us down paths we later regret. Avoiding reason also has profound consequences in our personal lives. When someone consistently acts without logic, they strain their relationships and lose the trust of those around them. Imagine being in a partnership where one person refuses to have constructive conversations about finances, parenting, or future goals, because they dismiss rational discussions as too complicated or not worth the time. Over time, this creates resentment and disconnection. Alternatively, think about the coworker who prioritizes their pride over productivity, refusing to accept better methods simply because they weren't the one to suggest them. These behaviors stem from an unwillingness to engage with reason, which Marcus Aurelius described as the core of human excellence. You have been formed for the purpose of reason. It is your nature. To abandon reason is to abandon the very thing that distinguishes us as human beings. But how do we ensure that we don't fall into the trap of avoiding reason ourselves? It begins with a simple practice: questioning. Before acting on an impulse or emotion, ask yourself, is this decision based on facts, or am I letting my feelings dictate my actions? Take time to gather information, consider alternative perspectives, and weigh the potential consequences of your choices. This habit creates a mental buffer, allowing you to respond with clarity rather than reacting with haste. Marcus Aurelius also recommended reflecting at the end of each day, considering whether your actions were guided by reason or if you were swayed by irrationality. This daily practice builds awareness and ensures you stay aligned with logic and virtue. Moreover, surround yourself with people who value reason and challenge your assumptions. As uncomfortable as it may be, constructive criticism from a trusted friend, mentor, or colleague can reveal blind spots you may have overlooked. For instance, if you're about to make a big financial decision, seek advice from someone with expertise rather than relying solely on your emotions or instincts. This openness to feedback reflects the humility Marcus Aurelius championed, as he believed that wisdom comes from recognizing that we don't know everything. If someone can refute me and prove I am making a mistake, I will gladly change, he wrote. This attitude is the antidote to foolishness because it acknowledges that reason is a collective effort, not an individual pursuit. In modern life, avoiding reason often stems from our fast-paced, distraction-filled environment. Many people feel pressured to make quick decisions without thoroughly thinking them through. The next time you face a decision, pause and remember the Stoic principle of rational deliberation. Instead of rushing, create space to think critically about the situation. For example, before responding to an inflammatory email, draft a reply and then step away for a few hours. This practice of delay allows your reason to catch up with your emotions, ensuring your actions reflect thoughtfulness rather than impulsivity. The key lesson here is that avoiding reason and logic leads to foolishness, but embracing them opens the door to wisdom, clarity, and a more harmonious life. Marcus Aurelius believed that reason is what sets us apart and allows us to live virtuously, stating, "Nothing is worth doing pointlessly." By grounding your actions in reason, you avoid the chaos of impulsive decisions and create a life guided by purpose and intentionality. Remember, reason is a tool, a gift, and a responsibility. It's up to you to use it wisely. So, the next time you face a choice, big or small, ask yourself, am I thinking clearly? Am I acting with reason? By doing so, you safeguard yourself against foolishness and align your life with the wisdom of the Stoics. Lesson 3. Refusal to learn from mistakes. Failure and deprivation are the best educators and purifiers. These words from the Stoic philosopher Epictetus remind us that mistakes are not obstacles but opportunities to grow, yet one of the clearest signs of foolishness is the refusal to learn from mistakes. When a person refuses to reflect on their errors, they forfeit the chance to grow wiser, and instead, repeat the same patterns of failure. Think about it. How often do people blame others, external circumstances, or bad luck for their failures instead of looking inward and asking, "What could I have done differently?" Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, stresses the importance of self-examination, writing, "You must become your own teacher and student. Discipline yourself without waiting for others to do it for you." Yet a person who resists this process stays stagnant, their life dictated by the same missteps and blind spots that hold them back. Consider a scenario many of us can relate to. A colleague repeatedly shows up late to meetings and gets reprimanded by their manager, yet instead of reflecting on their habits, perhaps poor time management or underestimating their commute, they simply grumble about how unfair their boss is. By refusing to learn from this recurring issue, they damage their reputation and miss out on professional growth. This same pattern can play out in relationships, where someone might consistently neglect communication, leading to misunderstandings and breakups. Instead of introspecting on their role in the conflict, they conclude that relationships are too hard, or people don't understand me, robbing themselves of the chance to cultivate healthier connections. Marcus Aurelius would argue that these people are acting contrary to nature because they ignore the Stoic principle of using reason to improve oneself. To live rationally is to embrace mistakes as a natural part of growth, not as final judgments on our character. In today's fast-paced world, the refusal to learn from mistakes can be even more damaging because life demands adaptability. Whether it's in your career, personal life, or even your health, repeating the same mistakes can lead to stagnation or even decline. For example, if someone continuously overspends their income but refuses to create a budget or educate themselves on financial planning, they will remain trapped in a cycle of debt and stress. The Stoics teach us that progress requires action, and action begins with reflection. As Marcus Aurelius advises, do not waste time arguing what a good man should be. 1. The refusal to learn is, at its core, a refusal to act on the lessons life is trying to teach you. What drives this resistance to learning from mistakes? Often it's pride, fear of failure, or the discomfort of facing unpleasant truths about ourselves. It takes humility to admit that we were wrong and courage to take steps to improve. But ask yourself, what's more painful? The momentary discomfort of confronting a mistake, or the long-term regret of staying the same? Think about athletes who review their past performances, even their failures, to identify weaknesses and refine their skills. This process is not easy, but it's essential for achieving greatness. Similarly, in your own life, learning from mistakes requires you to pause, analyze what went wrong, and then take deliberate action to prevent the same outcome in the future. The truth is, everyone makes mistakes. The difference between the wise and the foolish is how they respond to them. A refusal to learn from mistakes also has a ripple effect on others. If you're unwilling to grow, how can you expect to inspire or guide those around you? Think about parents who consistently lose their temper with their children, but never reflect on why this keeps happening. Without addressing their triggers or seeking better communication strategies, they set a poor example for their kids and strain the relationship. Now consider leaders in the workplace. Those who fail to adapt or learn from misjudgments often create environments where employees feel undervalued or frustrated. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that as part of the human community, our growth is not only for ourselves but also for the benefit of those around us. What is not good for the hive is not good for the bee. So how do we break free from the cycle of refusing to learn from mistakes? It starts with practicing humility and self-awareness. When something goes wrong, resist the urge to immediately assign blame elsewhere, and instead ask yourself, what was within my control in this situation? How could I have handled it differently? Reflecting on your actions without judgment creates the space for growth and allows you to approach challenges with a clearer mind in the future. Another powerful tool is seeking feedback. As uncomfortable as it may be to hear criticism, constructive feedback can provide insights you might have missed. Surround yourself with people who are honest and who challenge you to be better. As Seneca said, true greatness often comes from knowing when to ask for help. Moreover, take small, consistent steps toward improvement rather than expecting perfection overnight. If you've made a mistake at work, focus on one specific behavior you can adjust to prevent it from happening again. If you've hurt someone in a relationship, apologize sincerely and ask how you can make amends. This willingness to take responsibility, rather than avoiding it, fosters trust and resilience. Remember, learning from mistakes doesn't mean dwelling on them. It means using them as stepping stones to a better version of yourself. Ultimately, life will present you with countless opportunities to grow, and mistakes are simply part of the process. The Stoics believed that every misstep is a chance to move closer to virtue, as long as we choose to learn from it. So ask yourself, are you repeating the same mistakes because it's easier to avoid change? Or are you willing to face the discomfort of growth knowing that it will lead to a more fulfilling and purposeful life? Let your mistakes be your teachers, and let your actions define the person you are becoming. In the end, wisdom is not about avoiding failure but embracing it as the foundation of growth. Thank you for being here with us in today's video. Before we move forward, I want to take a moment to express my sincere gratitude to all of you for being part of the Stoic in Your Life community. Your presence here truly matters, and I'd love to hear from you. Whether you want to share your thoughts, personal insights, or simply let us know you're here, your interaction is deeply appreciated. If you're new to the channel, just drop a comment saying, "I am a newbie," so we can warmly welcome you. And if you've been with us for a while, let us know by commenting, "I am a Stoic." Your support is what motivates us to keep sharing these timeless lessons. Let's continue this journey of wisdom and growth together, shall we? Lesson 4. Constant need for approval. It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor. These words from Seneca shine a light on a profound truth about human behavior. The endless pursuit of external validation often reflects a deep inner emptiness. One of the clearest signs of foolishness is the constant need for approval, where a person becomes so focused on pleasing others and seeking validation that they lose sight of their own values, goals, and identity. This need for approval is a trap because it places the keys to your happiness in the hands of others. If your sense of self-worth depends on their applause, what happens when the applause stops? Marcus Aurelius warned against this folly when he wrote in Meditations, "We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." This behavior not only diminishes your self-esteem, but also blinds you to the path of reason and virtue. Think about someone you know or even yourself who has fallen into this trap. Perhaps it's the man who buys an expensive car, not because he loves driving or needs the vehicle, but because he hopes it will impress his peers. Or maybe it's the coworker who says yes to every task, even when they're overwhelmed, just to gain approval from their boss. While these actions may momentarily win praise or admiration, they often come at a cost. The man with the car may face financial stress, and the overburdened coworker risks burnout and resentment. This endless pursuit of approval is a fool's errand because no amount of external validation can fill the void left by ignoring your inner values and priorities. Instead of seeking approval from others, The wise person focuses on living with integrity and pursuing what is right, regardless of how it is perceived by others. In the age of social media, this need for approval has reached unprecedented levels. How many people post photos, share updates, or craft content, not because they genuinely want to, but because they crave likes, comments, and shares? This modern-day obsession with validation has made us more anxious, less authentic, and increasingly detached from our true selves. Marcus Aurelius's advice remains as relevant today as it was 2,000 years ago. Do not waste the rest of your life worrying about other people unless it affects the common good. When we prioritize others' opinions over our own judgment, we give away our power and allow ourselves to be controlled by the ever-changing standards of society. The wise person understands that the opinions of others are fleeting and often based on their own biases or insecurities, making them unreliable guides for living a meaningful life. This need for approval often arises from a fear of rejection or failure, and it's rooted in a lack of self-confidence. But ask yourself, whose approval truly matters? Do you measure your success by how many people praise you, or by how aligned your actions are with your principles? Consider the story of an artist who spends years perfecting their craft, yet their work is misunderstood or underappreciated in their time. If they had abandoned their passion to conform to popular opinion, the world would have missed out on masterpieces. Greatness, whether in art, leadership, or personal growth, is rarely achieved by those who constantly seek approval. Instead, it comes from those who stay true to their vision, even when it's unpopular or misunderstood. How do we break free from this constant need for approval? It begins with a shift in mindset, one where you recognize that the only approval that truly matters is your own. Marcus Aurelius urged us to act according to reason and virtue, writing, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." This advice serves as a powerful guide for decision-making, helping us align our actions with what is morally and logically sound, rather than chasing fleeting praise. When faced with a choice, ask yourself, am I doing this because it's right, or because I want someone's approval? This simple question can prevent you from making decisions that compromise your integrity or lead to regret. Another way to combat this need for approval is to practice self-acceptance and gratitude. Focus on what you already have, rather than seeking validation for what you lack. Seneca wisely noted, "He who is content is rich." When you find contentment in your own efforts and accomplishments, external opinions lose their grip on your happiness. For instance, instead of seeking compliments for a project at work, take pride in the effort and skill you put into it, regardless of whether others notice. This shift not only empowers you, but also helps you build a sense of inner peace that no external approval can provide. Additionally, surrounding yourself with people who value authenticity over appearances can be transformative. True friends and mentors encourage you to be yourself, not to conform to their expectations. They offer constructive feedback without trying to control or manipulate you. This kind of support fosters genuine confidence, helping you to trust your instincts and stay true to your values. As Epictetus advised, know first who you are, and then adorn yourself accordingly. When you understand your core values and beliefs, you become less susceptible to the opinions of others and more grounded in your decisions. The constant need for approval is a self-imposed prison that limits your potential and robs you of true happiness. The Stoics teach us that freedom lies in aligning our lives with reason and virtue, not in chasing the approval of others. So ask yourself, are you living for the applause, or are you living for what truly matters? By choosing the latter, you not only liberate yourself from the chains of external validation, but also set an example of wisdom and authenticity for those around you. Remember Marcus Aurelius's timeless words: waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Live with integrity. Seek the truth within, and let your actions speak for themselves. That is the path to true fulfillment, and no applause is needed to validate it. Lesson 5. Overconfidence without substance. It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows, warned Epictetus, pointing to one of the most common traps of foolishness: overconfidence without substance. This kind of overconfidence isn't rooted in knowledge, skill, or preparation. It's a facade, often hiding ignorance or insecurity. People who exhibit this trait tend to overestimate their abilities while disregarding their limitations or refusing to admit when they don't know something. It's not just about arrogance. It's about living in a delusion that blocks growth and learning. Marcus Aurelius in his Meditations offers a sharp reminder: you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. But overconfident individuals often miss this wisdom, believing they are in control of everything without understanding their actual capabilities. Think of someone who speaks with great authority on a subject they barely understand. Maybe it's a coworker who dominates meetings, dismissing others' ideas while offering solutions that sound impressive but crumble under scrutiny. Or perhaps it's someone who brags about their financial acumen, yet consistently makes poor investments. Such individuals often equate loudness or charisma with competence, failing to see that true mastery requires humility, effort, and an openness to feedback. This behavior not only leads to poor decisions but also alienates those around them, as people grow tired of empty boasts and misplaced confidence. In contrast, the truly wise person understands the limits of their knowledge and is unafraid to say, "I don't know." They view gaps in understanding as opportunities to learn, not as threats to their ego. Overconfidence without substance is particularly harmful in today's world, where misinformation spreads rapidly and appearances often overshadow reality. Social media has amplified this phenomenon, allowing people to project a polished version of themselves while masking their struggles or shortcomings. You may have seen individuals on these platforms giving advice on topics they have no expertise in, fitness gurus with no formal training, financial influencers promoting risky investments, or self-help coaches offering generic advice. The danger here is twofold. Not only does this overconfidence lead to personal failure, but it also misguides others who trust the facade. Marcus Aurelius's advice is a necessary antidote to this behavior. Be content to seem what you really are. By focusing on genuine growth and aligning actions with reality, we can avoid the pitfalls of superficial confidence. But what drives overconfidence without substance? At its core, it's often fear. Fear of being seen as inadequate, of failure, or of losing status. Instead of confronting these fears, many people build a protective shell of bravado. They avoid vulnerability and the hard work of self-improvement, choosing instead to project an image of perfection. However, as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. True confidence is not about pretending to be perfect. It's about recognizing your imperfections, working on them, and standing firm in your values. Consider a modern example of a leader who embraces humility instead of overconfidence. Think about a manager who openly admits when they make a mistake and seeks input from their team to find solutions. This approach not only fosters trust but also encourages collaboration and innovation. Contrast that with a manager who refuses to acknowledge their errors, insisting their way is always right. Over time, their team becomes disengaged and the organization suffers. The difference lies in the leader's ability to balance confidence with self-awareness and substance, a principle rooted in Stoic philosophy. As Seneca put it, while we teach, we learn. The act of being open to learning is what builds genuine strength and credibility. Breaking free from the trap of overconfidence without substance requires humility, discipline, and a willingness to grow. Start by being honest with yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? Where do you have room to improve? Acknowledge that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. This mindset not only opens the door to learning, but also earns the respect of those around you. Next, seek feedback from people you trust. Constructive criticism, while sometimes uncomfortable, is one of the most powerful tools for personal and professional growth. Remember, the goal isn't to appear perfect, it's to become better. Another powerful strategy is continuous learning. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that there was always more to learn, writing, "If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. For I seek the truth, which has never harmed anyone." Whether it's reading books, taking courses, or listening to others' experiences, every effort you make to build substance adds real value to your confidence. Over time, this authentic confidence becomes unshakable because it's rooted in reality, not in appearances. Ultimately, the lesson is simple but profound. Overconfidence without substance is a path to stagnation, but humility and the pursuit of knowledge lead to true strength. So ask yourself, are you building your life on the foundation of real growth? Or are you relying on an illusion of competence? The choice to face your limits and grow beyond them is yours to make. As Marcus Aurelius teaches, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. By embracing your flaws, seeking knowledge, and prioritizing authenticity over appearances, you not only overcome the folly of empty confidence, but also inspire others to do the same. True wisdom isn't about how loudly you speak. It's about how deeply you understand. Let that guide you as you move forward with purpose and humility. Lesson 6. Speaking without thought. Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to speak and to remove all doubt. This timeless wisdom, often attributed to Abraham Lincoln, captures the essence of what Marcus Aurelius and the Stoics understood about the power of words. One of the clearest signs of foolishness is speaking without thought, blurting out words impulsively without considering their truth, purpose, or impact. Such behavior not only reveals a lack of self-control, but also damages relationships, tarnishes reputations, and hinders personal growth. Marcus Aurelius reminds us in Meditations, "No man can escape his own words, so speak only what is necessary and true." But how often do we find ourselves or others speaking just to fill the silence, exaggerating to impress, or reacting emotionally without pausing to think? These moments may seem harmless in the moment, but they often lead to misunderstandings, conflict, and regret. Think about a time when someone's careless words hurt you or caused unnecessary confusion. Maybe it was a colleague who spread a rumor without verifying its accuracy, or a friend who shared a harsh opinion without considering how it would make you feel. Or perhaps you've been guilty of the same, saying something in anger or frustration only to realize later that your words caused more harm than good. Speaking without thought is often rooted in impulse, the desire to be heard, to prove a point, or to gain attention. But as the Stoics teach us, words have power, and with that power comes responsibility. When we speak recklessly, we lose credibility and miss the opportunity to use our words wisely to build trust, inspire others, or convey meaning. In today's fast-paced world, where communication is instantaneous, speaking without thought has become even more prevalent. Social media, text messages, and emails encourage quick responses, often at the expense of careful reflection. How many times have you seen an argument spiral out of control in the comment section of a post because someone responded hastily, without understanding the full context? Or perhaps you've sent a message in frustration only to regret it moments later. Marcus Aurelius's advice is more relevant than ever. Take care not to hurt others with your words, for words once spoken cannot be taken back. In this era of instant communication, Practicing restraint and mindfulness before speaking is not just a virtue, it's a necessity. But why do people speak without thinking? Often it stems from a lack of awareness or an inability to control emotions. When anger, pride, or insecurity takes the wheel, our words become weapons rather than tools. For instance, someone might interrupt a conversation to dominate the discussion, not because they have something valuable to add, but because they crave attention, or consider someone who responds defensively to constructive criticism, turning a moment for growth into an unnecessary argument. Marcus Aurelius believed that self-control is a cornerstone of wisdom, writing, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." The same principle applies to our speech. By pausing to reflect before speaking, we exercise control over our impulses and demonstrate wisdom. Let's relate this to a practical example. Picture a leader addressing their team after a challenging project. A thoughtless leader might immediately criticize the mistakes made, pointing fingers and damaging morale. However, a thoughtful leader pauses, considers the bigger picture, and frames their feedback constructively, focusing on solutions and lessons learned. Which leader do you think gains more respect and inspires greater effort moving forward? This difference highlights the power of deliberate speech. As Epictetus wisely said, "First learn the meaning of what you say, and then speak." By taking the time to ensure our words align with truth and purpose, we can avoid unnecessary harm and create opportunities for growth and connection. To overcome the habit of speaking without thought, start by practicing mindfulness in conversations. When you feel the urge to react impulsively, pause and ask yourself, "Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind?" These three simple questions, often referred to as the triple filter test, help you evaluate the value of your words before you speak them. Another effective strategy is active listening. Instead of focusing on what you're going to say next, truly listen to the other person's perspective. This not only improves communication, but also reduces the chances of speaking impulsively or misunderstanding the situation. Marcus Aurelius's guidance on this is clear. Give yourself time to learn what you do not yet understand. In addition to mindfulness and listening, embrace the power of silence. Silence is not a sign of weakness or ignorance. It's a tool for reflection and understanding. There's wisdom in knowing when to hold back and let your actions speak louder than your words. Silence can also be a form of strength, especially in heated discussions, where pausing before responding allows emotions to settle and reason to prevail. Consider how much more productive your conversations could be if you approach them with calm, measured responses rather than impulsive reactions. Ultimately, the lesson here is simple yet profound. Your words matter, and how you use them reflects your character. Speaking without thought may feel satisfying in the moment, but it often leads to regret and missed opportunities for growth. By choosing to pause, reflect, and speak with intention, you demonstrate wisdom, build trust, and create meaningful connections with those around you. So the next time you're tempted to speak impulsively, remember Marcus Aurelius's timeless advice. Let your words be few, yet significant. Make your speech a reflection of your best self, and use your words as a force for good in your life and the lives of others. If you've made it this far, you're a seeker of wisdom. Drop a comment saying, "I choose growth," to show you're committed to recognizing and overcoming the traits of foolishness. Stay with us. Your journey toward a life of reason and virtue is more to uncover. Lesson 7. Disregard for the bigger picture. Man is not disturbed by events, but by the view he takes of them. This timeless wisdom from Epictetus captures the essence of one of the most common yet subtle signs of foolishness: a disregard for the bigger picture. People who fail to see beyond their immediate circumstances or personal desires often make decisions that may feel gratifying in the moment, but lead to regret and unintended consequences over time. Marcus Aurelius emphasized this in Meditations, writing, "Always remember, what is happening now has happened before and will happen again. Keep the whole in mind." This advice urges us to zoom out, to understand our actions and their impact within the broader context of life, relationships, and society. Yet, foolish individuals often get caught up in trivial concerns or short-sighted thinking, making choices that reflect a lack of awareness of the interconnectedness of all things. Consider the individual who spends recklessly, indulging in instant gratification without considering the long-term consequences. They ignore the bigger picture of financial stability and may end up in debt, jeopardizing not only their future but also their ability to support loved ones. Or think about the person who prioritizes winning an argument over preserving a meaningful relationship. In their narrow focus on being right, they fail to see the larger value of mutual understanding and respect. This kind of thinking isn't limited to personal life. It can be observed in the workplace too. A manager might push their team to achieve short-term goals, ignoring the importance of team morale and long-term growth. The result? Burnout, high turnover, and diminished trust. These examples highlight the pitfalls of failing to consider the broader consequences of our actions, a mistake Marcus Aurelius cautioned against by encouraging us to step back and view life through a lens of reason and perspective. In today's fast-paced, distraction-filled world, it's easier than ever to lose sight of the bigger picture. Social media and constant notifications often draw our attention to fleeting moments of entertainment or conflict, pulling us away from what truly matters. Have you ever spent hours scrolling through your phone, consumed by trivial matters only to feel regret afterward for the time lost? This tendency to focus on the immediate, the urgent or the superficial, blinds us to the more meaningful aspects of life, our goals, our values, and the legacy we want to leave behind. Marcus Aurelius's advice to look at everything as though you are seeing it for the first or last time serves as a reminder to prioritize what truly matters and to see beyond the noise of daily distractions. The disregard for the bigger picture is often rooted in impatience and a lack of self-discipline. We live in a world that rewards instant gratification, where waiting and planning are seen as outdated virtues. But ask yourself, how often do quick fixes or impulsive actions truly solve the deeper issues at hand? A rushed decision to quit a job might feel empowering in the moment, but without considering long-term career goals or financial stability, it can lead to regret. Similarly, pursuing short-term pleasures, like excessive spending, overeating, or procrastination, often results in long-term harm to your well-being, relationships, or aspirations. As Seneca wisely observed, it is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it. This speaks directly to the foolishness of focusing solely on the now, without accounting for the ripple effects that extend far into the future. To counter this tendency, cultivate the habit of reflection. When faced with a decision, pause and ask yourself, how will this choice affect my future self? How does it align with my long-term goals and the values I hold dear? This practice of stepping back and considering the broader implications of your actions is a cornerstone of Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius suggested beginning each day by contemplating the interconnectedness of all things, writing, "Think of yourself as part of the whole." This mindset not only fosters greater clarity in decision-making, but also encourages a sense of purpose and alignment with the greater good. Another powerful way to keep the bigger picture in mind is to set meaningful goals and revisit them regularly. Think of your life as a ship navigating the ocean. Without a clear destination and course corrections, you're likely to drift aimlessly, wasting time and energy. By defining what truly matters to you, whether it's building strong relationships, pursuing a fulfilling career, or contributing to your community, you create a framework that guides your actions and prevents you from getting lost in the trivialities of daily life. As Epictetus wisely put it, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. It's also important to recognize that seeing the bigger picture doesn't mean ignoring the present moment. It means balancing the present with the future. Marcus Aurelius urged us to live fully in the now, but with an awareness of its connection to the whole. This perspective helps us make wiser decisions, like choosing to invest time in our health today for a better quality of life tomorrow, or resolving conflicts constructively to strengthen relationships over time. By integrating both immediate action and long-term vision, we align ourselves with the Stoic ideal of living in harmony with nature and reason. Ultimately, the lesson here is clear. Failing to see the bigger picture leads to short-sighted decisions, unnecessary stress, and missed opportunities for growth and connection. To avoid this trap, take a step back whenever you feel overwhelmed or rushed, and remind yourself of your values, goals, and the interconnectedness of your actions. Remember Marcus Aurelius's timeless wisdom. Dwell on the beauty of life. Watch the stars and see yourself running with them. By keeping the larger context in mind, you not only make wiser choices but also live a life of deeper meaning and purpose. So the next time you find yourself caught up in the moment, pause and ask, am I seeing the whole or just a part? The answer may change the course of your actions and your life. Lesson 8. Inability to accept criticism. If anyone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake, I will gladly change. I seek the truth, which never harmed anyone. These words from Marcus Aurelius strike at the heart of one of the most destructive signs of foolishness, the inability to accept criticism. This trait isn't just about rejecting feedback, it's about rejecting growth, wisdom, and the opportunity to refine yourself. A person who cannot accept criticism builds walls around themselves, shielding their ego, but keeping out the lessons that life, experience, and others offer. Instead of growing, they stagnate, trapped in the illusion of being right while the world moves on without them. Criticism, when delivered constructively, is a gift, a mirror reflecting areas where we can improve. Yet how often do we treat it as an attack instead of an opportunity? Marcus Aurelius reminds us in his Meditations that the wise man is not afraid of being corrected, for the correction leads him closer to truth and virtue. Think about the times you've bristled at someone pointing out your mistakes. Maybe it was your boss offering feedback on a project you poured your heart into, or a partner pointing out a flaw in your communication. Did you lean into that discomfort, or did you push back, defending yourself without truly listening? This inability to accept criticism is often rooted in fear of appearing weak, fear of being wrong, or fear of confronting flaws you'd rather ignore. But ask yourself, which is worse, the temporary sting of being corrected or the long-term consequences of never improving? The Stoics believe that criticism, much like hardship, is an essential tool for self-improvement. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, what stands in the way becomes the way. Criticism may feel like an obstacle, but it is the very thing that sharpens our character and guides us toward becoming better versions of ourselves. In today's world, where everyone seems eager to share their opinions, the inability to accept criticism is more common than ever. Social media, for instance, has created a culture of quick judgment and defensive reactions. How often do we see someone double down on their mistakes rather than admit fault and learn? It's a reflection of a broader issue. People view criticism as a personal attack rather than an act of care or an invitation to grow. But not all criticism is created equal, and part of developing wisdom is learning to discern between constructive feedback and destructive negativity. While destructive criticism aims to tear you down, constructive criticism is meant to build you up by pointing out blind spots and areas for growth. The key is to embrace the constructive while filtering out the noise of unhelpful opinions. Consider a relatable example. A young entrepreneur launches a business with high hopes, but early customer reviews highlight flaws in their product or service. If they respond defensively, dismissing the feedback as unfair, they miss an opportunity to improve their offering. However, if they take a step back, listen to the feedback, and use it to make adjustments, they're far more likely to succeed in the long run. This principle applies to every area of life. In relationships, being open to criticism can deepen trust and connection. In the workplace, it can accelerate growth and build resilience. The ability to listen, even when it's uncomfortable, signals strength, not weakness. As Seneca wisely observed, "He who is brave is free." Bravery in this context means being free from the fear of criticism and willing to face uncomfortable truths for the sake of progress. But how can we learn to accept criticism gracefully? The first step is cultivating humility, which Marcus Aurelius described as an essential virtue. Recognize that no one is perfect and that mistakes are part of the human experience. When someone offers feedback, resist the urge to defend yourself immediately. Instead, pause and ask yourself, what can I learn from this? Even if the delivery of the criticism isn't perfect, there is often a kernel of truth that can help you grow. Next, approach criticism with curiosity rather than defensiveness. Ask clarifying questions such as, "Can you give me an example?" or "How do you think I could improve?" This not only demonstrates maturity, but also shifts the focus from blame to solutions. Surrounding yourself with people who challenge you constructively is another powerful way to grow. True friends and mentors will tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. Embrace these relationships, as they provide a safe space for honest feedback and growth. Marcus Aurelius advised seeking the counsel of those who are wiser and more experienced, as their insights can illuminate paths you might not have considered. At the same time, learn to filter feedback wisely. Not every critique is valid or worth your attention, and part of wisdom is knowing when to let go of criticism that doesn't serve your growth or align with your values. Accepting criticism is not just about personal growth, it's about leading by example. When you show that you can take feedback with grace and humility, you inspire others to do the same. This ripple effect can transform teams, families, and communities, creating an environment where learning and improvement are valued over ego and pride. Marcus Aurelius summed it up perfectly. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Accepting criticism is a hallmark of a good person, one who prioritizes growth over comfort and truth over self-delusion. At its core, the inability to accept criticism is a refusal to grow, and growth is what defines a life well lived. Criticism may not always be easy to hear, but it is one of life's most powerful teachers. The next time someone offers you feedback, pause before reacting and consider the lesson it holds. Ask yourself, am I rejecting this because it's untrue or because it's uncomfortable? By choosing to embrace criticism, you align yourself with the Stoic path of reason, humility, and progress. Let this be your guiding principle. Listen, learn, and improve. The discomfort of today's criticism is a small price to pay for the wisdom and strength you'll gain tomorrow. As we bring this journey to a close, let's reflect on one essential truth. Foolishness is not a permanent condition. It's a habit that can be unlearned with conscious effort, reflection, and the courage to grow. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that wisdom begins with self-awareness, thrives through learning from our mistakes, and is strengthened by the humility to embrace change. By recognizing and addressing the 8 signs of foolishness, be it the inability to accept criticism, speaking without thought, or a constant need for approval, we take the first step toward breaking free from harmful patterns and cultivating a life guided by reason, virtue, and purpose. These principles aren't just abstract ideas. They are actionable tools you can use to navigate challenges, build stronger relationships, and find clarity in an increasingly complex world. So I challenge you to ask yourself, which of these signs resonates most with your own experiences? Is there an area in your life where you see room for growth? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear how Stoic wisdom has impacted your perspective. Remember, the path to wisdom is not about perfection. It's about progress, about striving every day to align your actions with your values and live with integrity. If this video resonated with you, please like, share, and subscribe to Stoic in Your Life for more content that helps you apply the timeless teachings of Stoicism to modern challenges. Together, let's commit to embracing reason, rejecting harmful habits, and becoming the best versions of ourselves. Thank you for watching, and may we all continue walking the path of wisdom, one step at a time.